So let me say my greeting. Morning to our friends in United States, North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and in Europe. Good evening to our friends in the Arab states and India. Good evening to our friends in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia. Good late evening to our friends in Australia, our friends in South Korea and Singapore as well. I believe we have some questions.
Question 1, dear Ajahn, I have many defilements and I have many challenges in my meditation practice. How can I be contented in Bodhgaya? It is very noisy and dirty, and there is the energy of greed so much everywhere. It seems that even my steward cannot be entirely trusted. Thank you.
Practicing intensively in Bodhgaya or choosing to live in Bodhgaya for a period of time is, I would say, suitable for people who are what I would call advanced practitioners who want a challenge. If you're an advanced practitioner who wants a creative challenge, then Bodhgaya is the place to go and meditate and to live for a period of time. If you don't consider yourself advanced and you don't want too many challenges, I would recommend that you go with a tour group with a good teacher where it's kind of contained and you have some opportunity to practice, to make some vows, to have some meditation, but things are kind of contained and taken care of. And because energetically, Bodhgaya is a very interesting place. It is the seat of enlightenment of all Buddhas in this universe. So the previous 3 Buddhas and Shakyamuni Buddha, Gautama Buddha, and will also be the seat of enlightenment for Maitreya. So it's if people can go, it's a wonderful place to go and pay respects. Enormous merit if you do. Luang Por Nun, who has divine eye abilities, says that he has seen when people pay respects at the Bodhi tree, the stairway to heaven manifests at the top of their heads. That's how much merit it is. However, merit can also degenerate, and one has to take care. Ajahn also says people then have to walk up the staircase to heaven. They have to live in a certain way which is going to lead to heavenly rebirth, but it certainly increases the chances, and Lord Buddha did say, anybody who visits the 4 holy sites with a mind of faith, rebirth in heaven will not be difficult for such a person. But Bodhgaya is also the place, the seat of enlightenment is also the place that after the enlightenment, Mara's army manifested with the most frightful might ever seen before. And so in my experience, those energies are both present in Bodhgaya. The trapdoor, the escape route, the vibration of liberation, it's probably closer to Nibbana in terms of potentiality. I've said before, it's almost as if you can taste it, smell it, hear it, feel it, you're close to Nibbana, if you have some meditation skill. But it's also swarming with other phenomena. So the reason I say it's for people, advanced practitioners, that means people who can manage their irritation and aversion, people who can manage their fault-finding mind, because there's plenty of things to be upset about, plenty of things to be irritated by. And one has to have the ability to maintain the focus on why one came, what one's meditation object is, cultivate the Brahma Viharas, understand the law of karma, beings are the way they are, affected by greed, hatred, and delusion, but it's a workout. And so it's probably easier for people who have very strong faith. If you have very strong faith in the Buddha, then I'm happy to be there. So I would suggest for advanced practitioners, you could spend a couple of months. For not so advanced meditators who want to challenge and who want to develop the abilities to be advanced meditators, maybe a month. For people who know they're easily irritated, offended, annoyed, then you better go with a group with a teacher you love. And the respect and a good guide, you get the good karma of paying respects. Go back and find somewhere peaceful. So the person asking this question is, I believe, a monastic. So the best place for monastics to live is monasteries, where you're living with other Sangha members who have a similar standard of virtue as you. So that's what is better for a monastic. I know one nun, I'm pretty sure she doesn't listen to my talks, so I'm not risking offending her. But I know one nun who I met in Bodhgaya, gosh, maybe 12 years ago. And she was quite a sweet, delicate, I guess she also had toughness, but she was sweet on the outside and gracious. And she stayed in Bodhgaya for so long, and she's become quite a different person. She kind of has a bit of a nickname. It's like the godmother of Bodhgaya. I didn't call her that, of course. And yeah, so she became more aggressive, less polite, more rude. And I've kind of observed her and made a mental note to myself, don't spend too long in Bodhgaya, because I want to maintain deva-like qualities and increase my merits. Because apparently whatever merits you make in Bodhgaya are 7 times more potent. The Dalai Lama said that. Because the purity of the place in terms of its vibration. Of course, whatever bad karma you make is also 7 times more potent. So in this game of snakes and ladders, we don't want too many snakes manifesting on our path in the future. But, yeah. Next question, JC.
Thank you, Ajahn. Question 2, dear Ajahn, in Daoism, there are ceremonies to consecrate statues. Can the consecration happen on its own, whereby the blessings of a deity leaves the statue and does not return? What is the consecration process for Buddhist statues in Thailand? And what happens in such process? Does the energy of the Buddha really descend into the statue, or is it just a placebo? Thank you.
So I can't see these things with my own level of ability, but I do know monks with special abilities, and I have asked them similar questions, so I can tell you what I've heard. If a person with faith has a Buddha statue and chants their morning and evening chanting, or chants regularly, apparently some blessings of the Buddha will come and stick to that image. And I think part of the reason why is the Buddha, when he was in the world, made determinations that his merit would protect his following and support them. So with the power of a Buddha's mind and capacity to generate blessings and dedicate blessings into the future as well, then there's a certain thing to understand is that merit is a thing. So the Bodhisattva produces mountains and mountains, oceans of merit. It's a condition in the conditioned world. When the Buddha attains to Nibbana, it's the unconditioned. So the mind lets go of the conditions. But the merit doesn't get nuked or annihilated. The merit is still a thing. And due to the power of beings who have a karmic connection with that Buddha, if they demonstrate their faith, some blessings do come to the statue. And many people will notice that if they chant and meditate in the same place every day for a period of weeks, months, years, walk into the room and it has a kind of a peaceful feeling. Energies do accumulate. And it is a good thing to do if you can have a space which is part of your refuge and a place where you can recharge, a bit of a cocoon. If a person is not yet an Aryan, so if a person has samadhi jhana, then they can actually put metta blessings into a statue. However, if the person doesn't have what they call the Lokuttara jhana, the samadhi of a person on one of the levels of enlightenment, the blessings can leave the image. So if there are negative energies around, bad people, the situation degenerates, the blessings can dissipate. However, if an Aryan with jhana, stream enterer, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arahant, or a high-level bodhisattva, blesses an image, their metta blessings can go in on a even smaller than molecular level, and nothing can take that blessing out of that image. The blessings can leave the amulet or the mala or the statue. The blessings can leave if they came out, like, so for example, I'll give a story. For whatever reason, I'm in a storytelling mode. I have a friend who was a monk with me. He disrobed. And he was going to visit Ajahn, and he was wearing an amulet that Ajahn had given him, Ajahn. And as it happened, somehow he lost control of his car, and the car went into, I think it rolled 3 times. But before it rolled, this layman saw Ajahn face before him. The car rolled 3 times, and he walked away from that experience without so much as a scratch. So these great monks, when they bless amulets, they determine, may my disciples be safe, may they be free of harm. And so it's an imponderable, like the Buddha says, understanding the implications of jhana is something that you can't figure out conceptually. But what you can know is that it's pretty amazing. The power of that determination that the student be safe, be protected, and so yeah, because that monk had lived with that layman had lived with Ajahn for a period of time, had faith in Ajahn. That's another factor. If you actually have faith in them and you have faith in the teacher, then that's also going to increase the likelihood that such a thing might be able to help you. So Lumpur Kun was an interesting monk. He was considered to be a high-level bodhisattva, and he was interesting because he used to kind of sit in a funny kind of a way, kind of squatting, and his robes were falling off, and he smoked cigars. So he looked kind of like a gangster. And he wasn't that famous originally. But at some point, the building standards in Thailand, it's a bit better now, but in the old days wasn't so good. But apparently, there was a period of time where various shopping centers would occasionally fall in on top of the happy shoppers. And so, not so happy after the building fell off. Anyway, so a whole bunch of people walked away from this shopping center that had collapsed without any injury. And somebody worked out that they were all wearing Lumpur Kun amulets, this particular monk. And so then he became very famous, and everybody wanted one of his amulets because it made you shopping center collapse proof. It seemed to. So there is something to it. I've lived in Thailand for 25 years. I've heard enough of these stories. There's something to it. And I have an amulet that I normally wear that my teacher gave me, and it was blessed by an incarnation of Maitreya. And it's one of the most coveted amulets Thai people want. Of course, this monk gave them out for free, but now they're worth millions of baht. And the reason they become worth millions of baht is because of that anecdotal evidence. The people who have them tend to be walking away from dangerous situations unscathed. A certain amount of precepts, ethical conduct, and is helpful. And if a person is a really bad person, even if they have the best amulet, I don't think it will protect them. But if a person is a good person, then it can help. So in Thailand, when it comes to blessing statues, if you know some arahants or if you know some Aryans with jhanas, what people will normally do is when they're pouring the statue, molten brass, then they will ask the Ajahns to come to the Buddha pouring statue. And from the answers I've received from my discussions, more of the blessings will stick when the brass is in liquid form. When something is already solid and hard, they will aim a lot of blessings at it, but a certain amount will bounce off. Your won't will go in. But if the Arahants, not all of them have psychic powers, but for the ones who do, some monks have the ability to kind of attract the blessings. And again, this is the imponderables, the power of jhana, the power of enlightened mind. But they can invite the blessings of various Buddhas and various Arahants, and they can direct that into the statue. And so some statues are very famous. When I love to go to the Emerald Buddha, it's been around for more than 1,000 years, and maybe around 1,000 years. And we just think for 1,000 years, this statue has been very revered, and generations of Arahants and high-level Bodhisattvas in Thailand have gone and paid respects, and they will have also added their blessings or their abilities to bring in the merits of the various Buddhas. So it's like, the most blessed amulet in Thailand, in a way, blessed by 1,000 years worth of Arahants. So yeah, and people make aspirations there, and interesting things happen. And there are other ones. There's a statue not far from where the Buddha Chinara in Pitsanalok, of course, they're very famous. So yes, blessing statues is a real thing. If it was an Aryan who did it, the blessings will tend to stick until the end of the eon, when everything turns into fire and melts, goes back to emptiness. But until then, it's blessed. But some of those blessings may come out to protect disciples or help disciples if there's a karmic connection. So I hope that answered the question to some degree.
Thank you, Ajahn. Then question 3. As one of the 3 fetters is attachment to rituals and rites, should I abandon the ancestral worship and the praying on the full moon and half moon day? Thank you.
So after the insight into stream entry, a person abandons the fetter with a kind of habitual grasping at a belief that rites and rituals is what will lead to enlightenment or insight. So one actually does skillful rites and rituals. One does it to brighten the mind. One does it to help generate mindfulness. One does it to, lighting candles and incense is a rite and ritual. Well, we all do it. It's like recollecting the Buddha with gratitude, offering something fine, is a way to brighten the mind. So that's skillful. It's a way to generate good karma. That's also skillful. The thing that needs to be abandoned is the belief that if I offer 1,000,000 incense sticks, I'll get enlightened. It's like this direct assumption that a certain amount of candles, a certain amount of flowers, a certain amount of incense sticks, then I will get an insight. So that's a delusion. It's not. The thing that liberates a mind is when the 5 spiritual powers are powerful enough, the faith, the energy, the mindfulness, the concentration, and the wisdom. But we do ceremonies if they help to cultivate those qualities. So if a ceremony helps to bolster your faith, energize your mind with faith, then it's skillful. Because then faith gives rise to energy. After faith, you have the energy, then you apply that to maintaining your mindfulness. You maintain your mindfulness, you get better concentration. Better concentration, you have more penetrative insight, deeper wisdom. So we do rites and rituals mindfully. And with regards to then the insight into stream entry, then one simply knows that it's the path factors that lead to insight, not the ceremonies themselves. But if those ceremonies help the path factors to ripen in one's mind, right mindfulness, right concentration, then it's fine. I think with the ancestors, I think one can approach it as a Metta practice, a dedicating merits practice, and so I think it's still okay. And Lord Buddha himself was the one that laid down the tradition that the monks should come together and discuss Dhamma on the half moon, full moon, and new moon. So this is a ceremony that the Buddha told the monks to keep. So it's not that, like I said, it's not that ceremonies are bad. And just paying attention to Lord Buddha's life. He was born on a full moon. He was enlightened on a full moon. He entered pāramitā on a full moon. There's something to these things. It's just using them with discretion, with discerning wisdom. But yes, believing that all of your relatives are still in a state similar to what they were, and believing that they're all going to be able to get this food and this money that you burn, these cars that you burn, these kind of Chinese habits. Yeah, I think that I wouldn't believe that's the case. However, it's probably the case that some of them are in a state where they can receive these things. So you just don't know which ones. Because beings that got reborn on the lower heaven realm, what they call Bumma Devas, very, very close to the human realm. And when a person with a close karmic connection with a relative dedicates merit and dedicates offerings to them, they can receive. There's just so much anecdotal evidence. I've been a monk in this country for 25 years, and very common that after somebody dies, a villager will tell me that they had a dream and the person was not looking very bright and the clothes looked a bit old, or they said they were hungry. And they come and they make offerings to the monks do the chanting, they dedicate the merit. They have a subsequent dream where the person looks radiant, has new clothes, and thanks them. So I've just heard scores of these stories. So there's something to it. The thing is, which relatives are in a state where if a person's caught between births, if a person's a ghost, if a person's a Bumma Deva, they are in a state where they could benefit from relatives dedicating merit to them. And Ajahn mentioned recently that when people sometimes eat the food, they make these offerings. So that's probably about 15% of Thailand is Chinese Thai, and many of them keep these. Ethnically Chinese, many of them keep these traditions as well. And people notice that when they eat the food, even if it's the finest food and they offer it to the ancestors and they eat it, it hardly has any flavor. And they notice that it goes off more quickly. It's like a certain amount of the goodness really does seem to have gone. So that's interesting. And Luang Por Nan actually recommended not eating it if you already dedicated it to others. No need to have a feast on that food. So yeah, one does it as a practice of metta, gratitude. We're grateful to our relatives and things that they gave us. And, keeping it at the right amount, probably. I mean, it is frustrating sometimes when I've tried to take my Malaysian students to India for periods of time. Oh, we can't go, it's Chengming. Oh, we can't go, it's Chinese New Year. I'm like, well, we have to go to our relatives' graveyard. I'm like, do you really think they're there? Do you really think their relatives are at the graveyard? God, I hope not. If you dedicated all these merit for them, why the hell would they still be at the graveyard? Anyway, there's no reasoning with these people. Anyway, but they do have gratitude and metta for their relatives, which is nice. In Western culture, I guess we hardly ever think about our great-grandparents, our grandparents when they've passed on. So Chinese people do. The positive side of it is the katanyu katavedi, the gratitude, thinking with loving concern for one's relatives. And the point I was trying to make to my Chinese students was, making merit in India might even be more beneficial to making merit at the graveyard. Anyway, we're all welcome to our opinions.
Question for Ajahn. I have been practicing with meditation every day for more than 3 years now. There were a few times I was able to reach the state of emptiness. Since then, I have developed great faith in the three jewels and have tried to practice pāramitā, spiritual maturity in various aspects even more seriously. I entirely believe there are Buddhas, Dhamma and Ariya Sanghas. My question is it possible if I will one day lose this faith, as I haven't entered the stream? How do I retain or even deepen this faith so I won't get lost of this path? Thank you.
So yes, if one has not attained to stream entry, it is possible that one's faith degenerates and one becomes deluded and one gets separated from the teachings. That's part of the danger of samsara. And it is scary. So, as the Sangha degenerates, bad stories about bad monks in Thailand all the time. And I to be honest, I wouldn't expect a teenager or a young adult who grew up in Thailand in this day and age to have that much faith in the Sangha. It's how can you see bad news about monks every day and then believe that these people are special somehow? So that's a degeneration of, it's not just a degeneration of the monks, it's a degeneration of the merits of the lay people. So what it means is the lay people being born in this day and age have less karmic connection with Buddhism. And the unfortunate thing is there are still Aryans, there are still Arahants, there are still high-level Bodhisattvas, and there are thousands of monks among the, somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000. Among those monks, there are very good practitioners. But the way the news media works, just only reporting bad things, then obviously people's faith is going to degenerate. So I would say in Thailand now, compared to when I came 26 years ago, there's much less faith. And the unfortunate thing is if someone just doesn't have faith, but then develops a kind of a fixed negative perception about the Sangha, while there still are Aryans leading it, and while there still are monks and nuns practicing well, that's extremely heavy and obstructive karma, unfortunately. So, and people need to have a certain amount of wise discernment. It's like just because somebody's wearing a robe doesn't mean they're a monk. People need to just attenuate their understanding. It's like, go and find monks who are monks. And with regards to monks who behave poorly, ignore them. Just don't give them any attention or interest. But that requires that someone has some faith and discernment, intelligence. So even if there were, it's an important point to make, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, but you guys have faith. But even if there were no good monks or nuns left at all, suppose, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is still the refuge. Because Sangha means all of the Arahant disciples of the Buddha. And also all of those who are Aryans who got born in heaven worlds. They're part of the Aryan Sangha. So it's like Buddha, and there are some people that say, I pay respects to the Buddha and the Dhamma now, but I don't pay respects to the Sangha because there's no good monks left. Excuse me for saying so, but that's very stupid. And Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is the refuge. Buddha says so. But of course, you have to be discerning which monks and nuns you consider to be part of your Sangha refuge. And how do we bolster our chances? Then I think this is part of this understanding, isn't it? Just like reading the great disciples of the Buddha, developing a loving appreciation for Sariputta, Mahamoggallana, Anuruddha, these great Arahants, great disciples, and the great disciple bhikkhunis, foremost in wisdom, foremost in samadhi, psychic powers, etc. Getting that sense of the timelessness of it, the great beings of the past, present, and future. And so some study, and the daily meditation and the daily chanting. Just chanting every day. The Buddha is my refuge, the Dhamma is my refuge, the Sangha is my refuge. It's going to increase your, what part of the morning chanting and evening chanting, Arahang Samma Sambuddho, Sawakato Bhagavata, Supatipanna. Just this bowing. It's going to increase your chances of being born somewhere where there is Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. If not, if you keep your ethical precepts and you are doing your spiritual practice, the chances are that you will be born in a situation where you can continue to be ethical at least. And you will probably have some skillful spiritual views, some kind of deity practice where the teaching is that if you're a good person, you go to heaven. So your practice of morality should lead you to a place where you can be moral. And then we have to wait for the next Buddha to come. So, yeah, as you know, some of us aspire to birth in a Tushita heaven. So we can have wait it out up there until the degenerating age kind of burns itself out and the regenerating age starts to come back and land like a big leapfrog, skip the worst part of the eon and come back when things brighten up a bit. So that's plan A. So, I'm not sure what plan B is. Russian roulette. So.
Thank you, Ajahn. Then question 5. Dear Ajahn, it is my understanding that in meditation, Metta is an outpouring of loving kindness. Metta meditation comes very easily for me, but I struggle with generating loving kindness for myself. This feels upside down. Do you have any suggestion? Thank you.
So yes, most good people care for other people. So to sit there and think of the people who you care for, radiate goodwill for them isn't so difficult. However, if you don't have like a certain amount of metta in your own heart established for yourself, what's going to happen is it's going to peter out after a certain point. It's just kind of like I spread metta and now there's nothing left. But if you can generate it, so the way I teach it is breathing in, one spreads loving kindness inwardly, it's kind of regenerating it on every in-breath, breathing out, generating it outwards to other beings. And you can do that for hours. So it's like, if one can have metta for oneself, it's going to be more powerful. Lord Buddha also says in the 11 Benefits of Loving Kindness Sutta that for those who cultivate loving kindness, the mind concentrates easily, and we all would like minds which concentrate easily. So Lord Buddha also says that, for a true disciple of the Buddha, if someone is sawing off your limbs, you would not give rise to a aversive or hateful thought. So most of us aren't quite there yet. Someone cuts you off in front of you on the road, and so it's like, what if they're chopping off your limbs? So I think we just need to understand that it's important that we make a resolution that we're going to do it. And so some people have a bit of a block. And I think in Judeo-Western culture, Christian, kind of Judeo-Christian, this idea that Jesus died for our sins and the original sin, something's wrong, and that you have to repent and all these things. There is a kind of a guilt. There is a kind of a withholding of goodwill towards oneself. When you compare it to Eastern religions, it's like you can become one with God, Your atta can become with Atman, and in Buddhism, you can become an arahant or a great disciple or a Pacheka Buddha or a Buddha. It's just a matter of sowing the causes, but you have Buddha nature, you have Buddha potential. Asians don't get the guilt trip that Westerners get. And so I think it's cultural that many modern people in the West have a kind of a withholding of loving kindness, which may have been culturally internalized. And so I think one just has to get a resolution that I am going to develop loving kindness for myself, and one just decides that's something that I am going to do. And sometimes for myself, I struggled with this for the first couple of years. My mother spent a period of time in a Catholic orphanage as a young woman, and so she had her Catholic guilt. I didn't have Catholic guilt, I just had my mother's guilt. Bless her, I love you, Mum. But she did make me feel guilty. And she would love to kind of vacuum around us while we were watching television and say, "This is such a bloody thankless bloody job," and I'd say, "Thank you, Mum." But she'd ignore me. The point was, stay there and feel bad. Just feel bad. So she's acting out some of her conditioning. And so yeah, I had to work, and so sitting for a long time would take a long time. So what I would do, I would lie down and I would put my hand on my heart, and I would just say, "You're not getting up until you have a feeling of loving kindness towards yourself. You're just not getting up from this position." I set a resolution. I'm lying here as long as it takes until I have a genuine moment of wishing myself well. And the thing about having a few genuine moments of wishing yourself well, it's like the chinks in the armor. Once a bit of metta begins to get in there, it can melt these blocks and things. Another thing that we can do is one of my first teachers, a lay woman, Rosemary Weissman, who I studied with as a backpacker when I was 22. When I was talking with her about my challenges of having loving kindness for myself, she said, "Imagine somebody just like you, give them the same childhood, but put them on the other side of the world. But they had the same kind of parents who said the same kind of things, and give them a different skin color, let them speak a different language, put them on the other side of the world. But imagine that they're real and really blast them with loving kindness. May this person who is just like me, had a very similar childhood to me, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be well, may they be happy." Once you can do that, imagine there's a few of them in different parts of the world. And all people just like me with this similar conditioning, whose mum said this, whose dad said that, whose teachers said this, whose culture said this, who grew up with this withholding habit and fault finding. May they be well, may they be happy, may they grow through their obstructions, may they grow in loving kindness, may they realize their potential, etc. And that's, again, a kind of a way of melting the resistance around. And then once you can do that, okay, me too. I'm also one among sentient beings that has suffering, that has Buddha nature, Buddha potential. May I also be well, may I also be happy, may I realize and cultivate my potential. So yeah, you have to set the resolution and be disciplined and just do it until you can do it. It takes work. I'm very, very grateful that I learned to have loving kindness for myself as an habit. Oh my God, oh my Buddha. One needs to have metta for oneself. Today, there are 166. Once this one goes up, there will be 167 items on my YouTube channel. So if you scroll through on the website, the live streams, the questions of every single one is there. So people can scroll through and see what were the questions asked. And then when you go to the YouTube, if you look in the description, somebody helps me with my website, another person helps me with the YouTube. When you look at the description, there should be the time of when the question is answered as well. So it's like, you can scroll through, see if you have a question, see if someone else asked it, see if I've already answered it. And I would think of you when I do my retreats. I usually dedicate merit to all beings with a karmic connection, that we may all grow in Dhamma together. So I will bring you to mind also.
Have a blissful retreat. Shall see you 5 weeks after.
Sadhu, 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 Ajahn. Thank you very much. We all wish you deep, insightful retreat for the next 5 weeks. And we hope to see you well and bubbly.
And I'll have a new kit. I'll have a new kitten to play with during that time too.
By then.
Aparajita is the donor of the cat. Thank you, Aparajita. Aparajita also has a nice cat. She has a Persian.
It's around.
Aparajita has a Persian in the Arab states who she has to give a haircut in summer. I think I saw Shivani there. It's not yet very late. Shivani, are you still there? Shivani.
I don't see her.
She might have had to leave. Yes, there you are.
Good evening, Ajahn.
Yeah.
How are you, Shivani?
I'm okay, Ajahn.
Do you have a chant ready for us?
No, Ajahn, actually, my mother-in-law is very unwell, so I've just been going very crazy and very exhausted looking after her.
Well, when you're going crazy and you're exhausted, you need to chant, obviously.
Yes, Ajahn, I do. I have to. So I can.
You know the Bodhgaya. You know the Bodhgaya.
Yes, yes, yes. Can I do the Bhujanga Sutta?
I would love it if you did.
Ajahn, can I just have 1 second? Just 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's okay with you, Shivani will recite the Bodhgaya Parita, which is the one that is supportive of good health and recovering from illness. If you need to go, you may go.
A beautiful chant before you go into retreat, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shivani.
Yeah. I'll just start. Bhujango sati sankhato dhammanam vichayo tatha viryang piti pasati bhujanga cha tatha pare Samadhupe kubujanga satyete sabdasena munina sammadkhata bhavita bahulikata Tanti abhinyaya nibbanaya chubodhiya etena satyavajena suthite hotu sabpada Ekasming samaye natho mugalanam chakasapang gilani dukhite disva bhujange sat desai te Chatang abhinanditva roga muchinsu tang khadi etena satchavajena suthite hotu sabda एकदा धम्मराजापि गीलन्येनाभिपीडितो चुन्दत्थेरेण तयेव भणापेत्वान् सादरम् सम्मोदित्वा च आबाधा तं हावुत्थासिठानसो एतेन सत्यवचेन सुथिते होतु सपदा Pahinate cha abadha tinnannampi mahesinam makahata kilesava pattanupatti dhammatang etena satchavajena sothite hotu sapada.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Beautiful.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you. So that sometimes that nasal sound still comes. It's there sometimes.
I didn't notice.
Okay, Ajahn, that's good. That's great.
Okay, let's do our dedication.
Yes, Ajahn.
Happy birthday, Mr. Da. If somebody could please give my best wishes to Mr. Da in India. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Take care, everybody.
Okay, shall we pay our respect to you, Raja, before you leave? And we would like to wish you well. And may the goodness that you have done in the Zoom for the past 2.5 years, may this reflect upon your heart, enabling you to see the Dhamma in this very lifetime. May you be well and may you be at ease always. Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu,
Sadhu.
sadhu,
Thank you,
Ajahn.
For your good wishes.
May you have a fruitful retreat.
Thank you.
Good night. See you in a month's time.